MLS is jumping the MLB and the NHL. According to this video, it's growing in terms of popularity, and soon it will make that overtake. This might be a topic some of you guys aren't ready to hear, but it sounds like it's on its way in that direction. Let's find out why this is happening and whether it's true, what you guys think as well. Yeah, let's dive in. I'm very interested in this because obviously football, soccer is my favorite sport, so I hope it does grow in America. Let's see. Let's have a look.
Great to see the MLS and American soccer growing so much.
The league continues to grow. Our national teams and the men's.
The World Cup is now bigger than the Super Bowl on a global basis.
What? What did he just say? No, man. No, man. I don't want to be negative in this video. Please don't just say what you thought I just said.
The World Cup is now bigger than the Super Bowl.
The World Cup is now being the key word, bigger than the Super Bowl. The World Cup's always been bigger than the Super Bowl, my man. He's got me angry. I can't even talk here. Come on, man. You're on the news. You're on the news. And you're saying stuff like that is now bigger. Go and do some research. I'm not taking away from the Super Bowl. It's massive. I love American football. I love the Super Bowl when I watched it this year. The World Cup has been and will always be bigger than the Super Bowl on a global basis.
On a global basis.
People that come in and believe in this, it's a
Sorry.
better growth of the sport.
Major League Soccer is catching up to the NHL.
The sport is growing rapidly in popularity.
You know, things are really growing in the soccer world.
It is a great time to be an MLS team.
We've seen the growth of the game.
The MLS could overtake Major League Baseball as America's number
10
3
years,
sport
you know.
in 10 years.
It's amazing, isn't it, the growth of the game
That was an LAFC owner that said that, though, so take that with a pinch of salt.
and the MLS.
How close is Major League Soccer to overtaking the National Hockey League?
Since 2019, the average value of Major League Soccer clubs has risen 85% to $579 million. What is driving that growth?
Never before have American cities, bars, kids at recess, and even billionaires been so obsessed with soccer.
Lionel Messi is reportedly close to coming to South Florida to join Inter Miami.
We've been told this was bound to happen for decades now, but I want to know why it's actually true this time.
I will say on the Messi thing, the fact that he's joining the MLS over, he definitely could have gone to Saudi Arabia like a lot of players are and earned a hell of a lot more money than he has done by going to MLS. It's a big thing. That's a big sign for the MLS. That's massive. Like, that's something you can't even buy. You can't even pay for that. Like, what he will do for the MLS is different, man. And it shows to his character as well, because, yeah, he'll become more famous in America, but I don't think he actually wants that. I don't think that's what he's after. There's something else behind it, right? He wants to make more of an impact on the sport. I think that's the true meaning behind it, especially leading into this 2026 World Cup in America. If he's still playing for Argentina, that's going to be massive, man. That's going to be massive.
Why am I seeing videos of 60,000 fans selling out games in the middle of the NBA and NHL seasons? Why is LAFC's $1 billion valuation higher than 75% of the Premier League? How did the MLS
Not
pull
United,
this off?
though.
Let me show you.
It is crazy, though. Fair play to the MLS.
If you were curious, yes, there is live music everywhere in Nashville, even the airport, which is great, but why am I in Nashville? It's a fair question.
To watch the football team.
When you think Nashville, you think music, Southern culture, cowboy hats, bachelor parties, hot chicken, not Major League Soccer. But you should, and it's mostly because of this thing right here. Turns out Nashville is the perfect example of why soccer is finally winning in America, but the reasons why are probably not what you'd expect. And I promise you, the answer is far deeper than we were able to print Group B co-advancer shirts after the Qatar World Cup. And by the way, yes, I did impulse buy that right after we took down Iran and immediately cut the sleeves off.
Is that an actual shirt? Co-advancers? That's such a weird way to put it. You just say you got through, man. Groups, you just got through the group stage. Co-advancers. With the co-advancers. It's not a bad tee, though.
In all seriousness, how did a league that nearly failed several times, a league that debuted running pens, a reverse clock, salary cap...
Honestly, I like those penalties. I'm not even going to lie. People hate them. I think it's a great idea. I love that one-on-one situation penalty. I think that'd be so much more entertaining than a spot kick. Honestly, I'm behind that. You should have kept that. Those little things I think you should have actually kept, just to make it different to the other leagues.
Draft and this kit finally get its act together and steal the fans of America's biggest sports.
It's a nicely edited video, this. I need to get to Nashville.
This is truly
Looks
a
like
full
my kind
circle
of place,
moment for the MLS
Live music
because
and
back
beer.
in 1988, America had a very different World Cup conversation going on. Now, the U.S. is set to host the World Cup again in 2026. It'll be the first time since '94, but how they convinced FIFA to host in the first place is a very strange story. They called FIFA to inquire about hosting, but it didn't go so well. FIFA laughed and told them in order to host, you need to have a national league. It's a requirement. It was an embarrassing reminder that the previous U.S. leagues crashed and burned 3 years ago, but they didn't quit. The U.S. realized everything is negotiable with FIFA, so they countered. They offered to build a brand new league from the ground up just to host this one massive tournament. They pitched it as the MLS, and FIFA was intrigued. They knew the U.S. had the largest sports market in the world, and boom, just like that, the MLS was born, but didn't actually kick off until 2 years after the '94 World Cup, which is weird, but FIFA didn't seem to mind. They were in because the idea was, even though Americans really don't care for soccer, the sport will grow because they'll all get to experience firsthand just how amazing the game is on the world stage.
I never knew that's the way MLS started. That's actually really interesting. I never knew that's how it came about. Fair play. They took a risk there. They were like, we really want this World Cup. Let's start our own league then if that's what we have to do. Never knew that. That's cool. Crazy, but cool.
Didn't go like that, like not even a little bit at first. In the early years, the MLS was more like a really expensive side hustle than professional league. 10 clubs dotted the states, and things went south almost immediately, both figuratively and literally. League execs weren't really seeing the growth or traction they wanted, but instead of making changes to the clubs that were already in place, they settled on adding more. Florida received its second club, Miami Fusion, and Chicago received the Fire. Shockingly, fixing their club problem with more clubs didn't work, especially in Florida. Both these clubs folded in a matter of years as the league shrunk from 12 back to 10. All in, the MLS lost $250 million in the first 5 years and found itself laying on its deathbed. Attendance was dangerously low, bankruptcy was lurking, and the entire world was laughing at the ridiculous Americanized rules. The MLS was down bad in a time when sports were surging in America. They looked at the NFL and they were like, you know what? Let's just fire our commissioner and hire one of their guys. More specifically, this guy, Don Garber, who came aboard as MLS commish in 1999. He paved the way for this beauty right here, the largest soccer-specific stadium in the United States, Nashville's Geodis Park.
Okay.
Garber understood that if this thing was going to survive, there were 3 things that were completely non-negotiable. Adopting world rules, which he did immediately.
I guess when I was saying about the penalties, it is a cool idea, but you do have to have the same rules, don't you? Realistically, otherwise everyone's always going to have something to come about it. I personally just think it's a good idea. I quite like it. I think it shows more skill than an actual penalty, but there we go. They did have to change it.
Developing homegrown
Thinking
talent
about it more.
and building homes for MLS clubs.
And
Now,
that's
number 3 is a
spot on
big
what you
reason
need,
why
yeah.
I'm here today, to show you the difference between going to a match in an NFL stadium and a soccer-specific stadium like this one.
Goes off in Nashville.
Remember when I said attendance was dangerously low? It had dropped 20% since the league began, and Garber was having none of it. The MLS was averaging about 15,000 fans per match, but it was a quiet 15. Clubs played mostly at NFL stadiums, which are designed for 60,000.
Yeah. Dead atmosphere.
What is this? Imagine walking to a massive bar with your buddies and you see 50 people inside. Then imagine walking to a smaller bar like this one with 50 people inside. The smaller one is going to have more energy every single time. That's the same problem the MLS was facing, which is why Garber pushed hard for the Columbus Crew to build their own soccer-specific venue, which opened in '99. It was all about first impressions. New fans need an exciting experience to become repeat fans, especially if they're going to raise their kids as fans. Thankfully, for everyone who wanted to see the league not die, the Crew Stadium was a hit, and it wasn't just fans in Columbus that loved it. Other billionaire owners were obsessed, and it became a trend. By 2012, the MLS had 12 of its 19 clubs playing in soccer-specific venues. Fast forward to 2022, and the stadium count grew to 22, with the newest and most...
Wow, I didn't even know this, that some of these... I thought in Miami's would have been the newest stadium, but clearly not. What? There's been four stadiums since then. Austin, Cincinnati, St. Louis, and Nashville. All newer stadiums. That's mad. This is a fair play to America, man. When you go for something, you fully go for it, don't you? You don't hold back. You just dive in. You just dive in and just take the risk. Screw it.
ambitious being Geodis Park. It's big and it's beautiful and the team has been successful, but we need to stay in 22 for a moment because something even bigger happened.
The countdown is on. Team USA is back at the World Cup.
This is a young team. It's an exciting team. It's an enchanting team.
I think they're awesome. They are hungry, and they are so talented.
The U.S. men's team rebounded from its embarrassing absence at the 2018 World Cup by advancing into the knockout stage. Of course, we all know how much this means, but I really wanted to talk to someone who's been on the story for a long time, so I called up Justin Birnbaum from Forbes. If we fast forward and we go to the 2026 World Cup, what would you consider a win at that point?
A couple things. MLS needs to send more players to the World Cup. They sent 36 players to the World Cup. That's the sixth most of any league, which is great because you're talking about the big five leagues in Europe and then MLS. And also Thiago Almeida from Atlanta United was on Argentina and he became the first active player to win the World Cup. So if you send more players to the World Cup and people are, getting to know the sport, falling in love with the players and wanting to follow up on that, having them come back to follow these players.
That's actually a pretty impressive start.
Huge win for them.
The sixth most.
This is what I meant by full circle. The MLS was...
But I imagine with that statistic, not to take away from that statistic, it is really good to be the sixth most. But I imagine with that statistic, there's a big gap between like the top three, I imagine. Maybe even four, but the top three would be the Premier League, La Liga, Serie A. And then you'd be looking at like France, Portugal, I imagine. And probably in the next one, Saudi Arabia is probably going to be up there. But I imagine La Liga and Premier League has like way more than everyone else. And the German League, I didn't even say the German League. So they might, even though they are in sixth, I imagine they've got to be some way behind them, surely. That would be interesting to actually see those numbers.
Literally founded to host the 94
Didn't
World
expect
Cup
you to
and
be
is hosting
sixth.
again in 2026, except this time, it isn't an extremely expensive side hustle built to please FIFA. It's a real league with passionate fans thriving in cities that we never expected to love soccer. It's gone from losing $250 million and nearly dying to clubs like LAFC being valued at over $1 billion, and now we have Messi turning down $1.3 billion from the Saudis
That's
to
massive,
come play for
That's
Inter
so
Miami.
big.
Remember Garber's second point, the one about developing homegrown talent being non-negotiable? That worked too. Even better though, it's not only homegrown talent. Slowly but surely, the MLS is losing its reputation as the retirement home for past their prime, washed-up superstars, as real international talent has joined the league. The results are in, and they're shocking, or scary if you work for the NHL or MLB. In a poll by Statista, American sports fans were asked to select which leagues they followed. Selecting multiple was acceptable, and they were all required to provide their age. Unshockingly, the NFL led the poll with 52% of fans following, but this number dips down to 33% among fans aged 16 to 25.
Oh.
The NBA placed second with almost identical figures among ages, which makes sense given their younger fan base. Next,
why is basketball more popular with younger people than NFL? I just didn't know that was a thing.
comes the MLB, who isn't doing great here, but given their average fan is 57 years old, the dip is less severe than expected. In fourth place was not the NHL, it was the MLS, with almost no dip at all. The NHL rounded out the top five.
Yo, MLS is already bigger than them.
Now, while this graph is a dream for anyone who's been bullish in American soccer, it gets better. This is only a snapshot of the present, which is why I mentioned the average age of MLB fans. Younger fan base equals more growth potential, and this is how they shake out. The MLB is the eldest league at 57 years old. Second oldest, the NHL at 50, the NFL comes in at 47. Second youngest is the NBA at 37, and youngest of them all is the MLS at 30 years old. Now, I'd be lying if I stood here and said that everything is great, there's nothing to worry about, the growth is going to continue forever, and the MLS will just breeze its way past the MLB and NHL. Things are good, but things are also risky. More specifically, their bet on streaming is risky. Instead of going with a traditional network like CBS or NBC, the MLS went all in and convinced Apple TV to exclusively show their matches for $250 million a year.
A first of its kind 10-year partnership with one of the most innovative and customer-focused companies in the entire world, Apple.
Even though it seems like everyone's a cord cutter, everyone is most certainly not a cord cutter. 72 million US homes have cable, and while nobody knows exactly how many subs Apple TV has, it's estimated to be about half. Are there other factors at play here? Sure, the US is becoming increasingly diverse, which naturally lends itself to more soccer fandom. The 2022 World Cup was an iconic thriller, 1.5 billion viewers. It makes everyone want to watch and play more soccer. And all these celebrities on screen right now have invested. That helps too. If you were to take all the factors I've shown and put them into a big pot and stir it up, what you're going to be left with is the people who said for decades, soccer's going to blow up in the US. I'm telling you, and they were right. It's been a long, windy, and treacherous road for them, but they've made it. We're here now. The World Cup is coming home, Americans love soccer, and the MLS is booming.
So one thing this video is all about, right, which is the main point of the video, is its growth in America. One thing I will say as well is it does have big potential to grow worldwide, especially now you've got, like you said, you're getting proper talent into the league. You got the likes of Messi over there, Busquets over there. You've had Zlatan before. You're bringing in eyes from other countries. I'm going to pay way more attention now Messi's there, as will most people. And the one big thing that plays in its favour is your league is running now. Right now it's on. When all the other leagues have stopped, everyone else finishes at the same time. The English, Spanish, German, French, Portuguese, all those leagues have stopped. The Champions League stopped. The MLS and the Mexican League are going. You've got that League Cup on at the moment. Your MLS is still going strong. So people are looking to watch football at this time of year, and there's not much on. The Women's World Cup is on as well, obviously. Big tournament there. If the Euros is on in the summer sometimes of the World Cup, but you still have that advantage of being on when no one else is. So it has massive potential worldwide, and it is good to see. I've always wanted it to grow big in America ever since Beckham went there. So fair play, MLS. You're doing big things over there. Unlucky MLB fans and NHL. What can they do to turn it around? MLB need to stop copyrighting my videos every time I try to react to some game highlights. That might make a little start there. If you did enjoy this video, guys, please do subscribe to the channel. Give the video a like. Comment down below. I'll see you for the next one. Take it easy. Peace.